Right guys, how's it going? For this video I decided to cover a different kind of subject. It's a story of multiple stories inside of Intel. Stories told to me by people who mostly just wanted to get some stuff off of their chests. As usual, I have taken every precaution to protect the identities of the individuals, so some small stuff might get changed or I might embellish on minor details. What's important is that the essence of what I'm about to tell you is true. At least from the perspective of my sources, it is true. And if you ever aspired to work at Intel, this might give you an idea of what to expect. I will start with a colourful story of blues and greens. And please note that there will be a few swear words in this video, as that's what was written in the emails. And in some cases, they need to stay in order to convey the full feeling of frustration within the message. Hi Jim, everyone has a story to tell, and I guess I have mine too. So I'd like to tell you a few things, anonymously. Seeing your recent video on Intel's graphics problems really hit home with me, but I don't think you quite understand the shit show that goes on behind the curtain on a daily basis at Intel, and how it's been like this for years on end. What I want to highlight is that Intel has been rotting from the inside for many years. It was around about the release of Kaby Lake when the floorboards officially rotted away, like visually. I still remember back then seeing Ice Lake on internal slides and being hopeful that it would be a huge 25% jump from where Kaby Lake was. But instead, Intel is just rotting away because of bad managers making bad decisions. But worse than that is there are lower level employee class struggles as well. There are H1B visas where these smart but maybe not smart enough people from India come over here to work, and their managers use their visas to hold them hostage at their job. If you step out of line or disagree, they will get rid of you. And if you're a US citizen, becoming a blue badge or first party employee is very, very hard. You need a bachelor's, or in most cases higher, and you already need 10 years' experience for most jobs. But most of the postings that you see aren't real anyway. They have to officially post the title, then it's down in a week or two. It was never a real position. It's all about who you know. It's nepotism. Anyway, as a blue, you get the full benefits of the healthcare, the bonuses, the paid vacation, and paid time off. And they just can't fire you for no reason. You've got more rights. But when they hire a contractor, a green badge, for maybe $20 an hour, their contractor company assumes responsibility for any extra benefits, which, as you know, there aren't any. And as a contractor, they can be fired at any time. So guess why the managers hire contractors instead of first party employees? Everyone wants to be a blue and talks about it with prestige while the greens are looked down on. You can't use the extra facilities like any of the recreation stuff as a green. Blues get pool tables, gaming stations and rooms, tennis and basketball, gyms, exercise rooms, classes for tons of rec stuff going on throughout the day. Free perks like free drinks and fruit, and even meals. Some of the food stuff we greens sneakily participate in, and most of the blues look the other way. But it's still a fireable offence. And whenever there is a beef between a green and a blue, the blue always wins. We've heard of incidents where greens were walked out because a blue made up some stupid story about how they felt threatened at work or something. It's sickening. We're not allowed to do anything outside of our assigned contractor duties. That's why we are cheap. We are one task only style contractors. You submit a request for a task and I do that one task. I can't do anything more. It's a very sad system that degrades any real progress, and this is contributing to the rot, I am telling you. Hi Jim, I work in the data centre group at the redacted campus. Every lab here is having a massive heating problem because of Cooper Lake and Ice Lake. They just run too fucking hot. Imagine this, a server room with older style cooling and it just can't keep up with the increase in power. Every fan on every system is running maximum speed. You walk between the rows and it's like a fucking hairdryer on your skin, it's that hot. It's so loud you need earmuffs and shout really loud when talking to someone. They finally fixed the air conditioning problem, but the new one is so overtuned it's like ice coming up your pants from the floor. It's just miserable and everyone hates it. The other labs were already over budget and had to borrow from the 2020 budget to fix the heat problems. Every lab that has servers is over budget and systems are going down constantly just because of the heat. It happens all the time. Cooper Lake and Ice Lake are a fucking joke. They never really worked well when the systems are plagued with issues. It feels like the most customised home-baked solution I've ever seen. The Ice Lakes are better than the Coopers, but they're still huge and hot. We have rows and rows of custom water cooling on servers from these generations that are sold like that direct to customers, with 2 radiators and 2 reservoirs on a 2-socket system. Who are we selling these to? Certainly not Amazon or Google. It just looks so bad any way you look at it. And sometimes I see new servers and I don't know what it is until months later. But I can see the cores, I can see the heat, and I can see when I know a product is shit. We tried finding ways of beating some AMD Rome systems on benchmarks, but we reached a dead end. We're trying really hard to prove empirically that our stuff is good, but there's little to find. Hi Jim. I worked for years at Intel in networking and security. As a Blue Badge employee, I got paid over $100,000 per year, and around about $80,000 in benefits. I don't know if you remember the WannaCry virus attack, when some hackers found out how to get into the infamous Intel backdoor through their management engine. Basically, this backdoor was an open port to the world for every core CPU ever made, an unsecured, unencrypted port. Most enterprises used the secure ports, but there was just one port that was unsecured. Hackers knew about it for many years, saying, "It exists, it's a government backdoor," etc., while Intel denied it existed at all. But it was actually all about a much simpler reason: money. The port was part of a software package for small and medium businesses. When I brought up the topic of the security hole, I was told, well, if they don't know how it works, it's secure, right? Security through obscurity. My guess would be someone who worked in our lab quit or was sacked, and then they decided to leak the information. Intel knew about it long before and had fixes already lying in servers. But it wasn't until 2 weeks before a DEF CON when a hacker announced that he would show the world how to hack into any Intel Core CPU as an admin that we fixed it. Imagine a serious exploit which existed for over 10 years and Intel knew all about it but did nothing. Of course, fixing it also meant admitting that they had backdoors on their CPUs. The attack method was brute force. If you sent a formatted XML packet where the user is admin and the password is null, as in no value, the software just lets you log in as admin through VNC. Basically, whoever wrote the code didn't account for a null value in the password section. So when you entered null, which is not possible through the software, but is possible if you create your own network packet, the code runs through all the loops and would return login as admin and passes all the checks. Someone either spent a long time figuring that out or was dropped a hint. The management engine, ME, has since been replaced with CSME, the Converged Security and Manageability Engine. It's like when you design any software and you want it to have more features, so you expand it. Like a bubble outside of the original bubble. Meaning CSME does everything ME can do for compatibility. And then they added all this new stuff on top. You will continue to see security issues come from Intel's backdoors they design on the CPUs as they try to sell that as a feature in their enterprise software and to government. Why am I telling you this? Our entire networking team of 8 guys, including me, recently got fired, and the last one quit on the spot. Those positions being empty means nobody has full network access to any of the switches in the entire campus. I still talk to some of the guys there. Recently somebody told me one of his clients did a security pen test and then Intel got injected ransomware through a hardware security hole. Long story short, ransomware turned up, which didn't require physical access nor any user was responsible for distributing it, like for example with the infected email scenario. Up till recently, the belief behind most of the vulnerabilities was that they are rather way too specific to actually be taken advantage of. Turns out that is not the case. The whole facility stopped operating for days, generating millions of dollars worth of cost and lost profit. And the worst part of this is, the guy who security pen tested it is being sued for the full amount. Hi Jim, I work for Intel in redacted. We have all these banners in the building saying customer obsessed and our customers are number one. Truth is, we don't listen to customers and we don't listen to employees. It's all bullshit. We give people scraps and tell them to deal with it. People complain and we don't do shit because we know we are the number one player in town with the monopoly for computing business. We are fat and lazy from eating everyone's lunch for so long, and the real consequences have yet to catch up with us. Regardless of customer feedback or results, it's all about the money. And that's why there are just about as many, if not more, greens now than blues working here. They take all the good blue jobs and just cut them down to a lower skill level. Group 2 or 3 greens together and call it good. I once saw 3 blues get backfilled by 3 greens with a total of 5 on the bench. And today only 2 greens work that entire bench. I can't tell if it's customers dwindling or not, but I do know people were reassigned or forced to look elsewhere to free those positions up. All by accounting people or business majors. No one who knows a thing about software, engineering, or computers in general. And so we end up with less skilled people, and a lot of them just sit in a chair like tier 1 customer service, basically. As a blue, it's a meat grinder. You will assume more and more responsibility and work as the years go by. You can just see it on people's faces, how it beats them up. Most leave the company eventually or just become a day in, day out style employee with no real motivation to put forth effort. So many good teams have been and will be abandoned. It's like a wound bleeding out. I'm very certain this company will continue to go downhill until we become just like Apple and sell one specific niche product behind a marketing machine with no real impressive product behind it, just loyal customers who we don't listen to. Hi Jim, I'm a contractor working at Intel. I'm literally an ass in a seat to my contractor company. I know that the company is making around $100,000 to $120,000 per position, and I am only getting half of that. They take that cut. But I am more qualified than most of my team, and they get paid even less. I know Intel is actively trying to outsource more blue badge IT jobs to contractors like me, because their management sees a chance to shrink the overhead costs while simultaneously outsourcing their problem. My company will accept it because all they see is more green badge asses in seats, which means more money for them. But what about the service? We already provide less support to the workforce because we're restricted on what we can do. You can't just ask me to do something. It's a ticket system. I can only do what I have documentation and specific instructions for, or I'm not allowed to help you. So we contractors that are brought in as support provide less support than the previous IT guys that we're replacing. Problems go unsolved, people get pissed and leave. Everybody knows it's pointless to ask for help, so end up homebrewing their own solutions, which is a huge violation of company policy. There's nothing I can do, I'm just a green anyway. My entire job is a joke. I barely get time to talk to my manager because he is stretched across 10 other teams. He is managing about 70 employees, I would gather. But he's a joke of a manager. He doesn't manage anything but my paycheck. And the guy isn't strict at all, if you get my drift. It's a very easygoing, relaxing work day for me. He doesn't care what I'm working on, as long as I'm working. I just work a little bit, enjoy YouTube and the clown show that is Intel providing around me. I take some pretty good breaks as well because sometimes you gotta just walk outside for a bit and enjoy the nice sunshine. Honestly, as long as you know it's temporary location and not your career, it's not that bad. Life could be worse, you know? But looking at the big picture, yeah, it's a joke. It's the same everywhere I have seen at this company. It's just a scandal for Intel to pay less for lower standards of labour. It's happening everywhere, even in engineering. The bar is being lowered and pointless bureaucracy is rampant. All these flashing red lights which simple common sense tells you to stop and fix this. But the issues are answered by managers with money counting hats on saying, well, how does this affect us money-wise? The issues themselves are ignored. All Intel cares about, its number one priority, is of course just money. It's all about that balance sheet. It isn't about products, good service, relationship with OEMs or customers. Nah. You can read between the lines and see it's all about money. Greed, just like with all the big corporations. in the US today. Right, so that was a handful of stories from people who currently work or used to work at Intel. There have been a lot more, however, the stories were just a little too specific to include in this. For many of us who are deep in the hardware and competitive side of things, it's easy to think that it's the lack of competitiveness that is causing so much unhappiness at Intel. But in fact, the majority of unhappy people there are unhappy because of the company's culture. For years now, Intel CEOs have been talking about the culture and how they are changing it. Going back to Paul Otellini here, who oversaw the disgraceful actions against consumers and AMD in the early 2000s, and who was Intel CEO until 2013, I found this interesting passage of him summarising Intel's culture. Egalitarian, merit-based. That came from Noyce. Anyone can speak in a meeting, but you must speak with data. That came from Moore. Take risks, embrace innovation, but do it with discipline. That's Grove. World-class manufacturing came from Barrett. I've added a marketing component. Sadly though, it appears that at Intel today, it's only the marketing component that is left. And I can't think of a better epitaph for Otellini. The previous CEO, Brian Krzanich, was next to talk about changing the culture. And the current CEO, Bob Swan, talks about it non-stop. Just a month ago over at the New York Times, where Intel's culture needed fixing, with Swan pushing its 110,000 employees to confront internal problems more openly. Well, I guess more and more are, and while the new slogan is One Intel, the old problems won't be as easy to change. And as far as the whole green and blue badge thing goes, every company's the same in that they hire contractors on the cheap, and contractors generally do not get the same benefits of full employees. However, Intel appears to have taken it to another level entirely, and the contractors, the green badges, truly feel like they are treated worse than worthless. I'd never even heard of the whole green and blue badge thing before this, so I researched into the topic more and I found a few comments on Glassdoor. Comments like these, going as far back as 10 years ago. March the 4th, 2010, green badge versus blue badge. And under pros we have, high-tech environment, new technology happening all the time. You could tell this was 10 years ago. Nice buildings, lots of perks for blue badges. Workout room, nice cafe. Under cons, green badges are treated as a sub-life form, even though there are more green badges than blue badges on this site. And Intel could not get the job done without the green badges. And there is very poor collaboration between green badges and blue badges. The advice to management being, we are all here to make Intel successful. Treat us fairly. 15th of April 2014, green badges are not part of the team. And again under cons, blue badges, direct employees, work insane hours and even long hours during and after holidays. Green badges, contractors, are not considered part of the team. You are treated like part of the factory equipment as a green badge. No feedback on your performance and little to no overtime. Green badges are not invited to company events. Intel goes out of their way to make sure that green badges are not part of the team. Contracts are cut short, 1 year to 9 months. Advice to management being, treat your employees better and allow the contractors to work the extra hours. Then over at The Guardian, January 2016. This was just one large complaint about the difference between blue and green. The way they treat green badges, it's like we are second-class citizens. On the flip side of the coin though, the full employees, the blue badges, they see themselves threatened by the much cheaper labour as management looks to cut costs and fill positions with easy-to-fire people. There's something very rotten about the whole thing. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have absolutely nothing against the vast majority of people at Intel. I must admit to laughing a bit at the whole roasting hot server rooms, followed by the overtuned air conditioning thing. But that's just from the perspective of how completely ridiculous it is. But make no mistake about it, there are a great many very miserable people working at Intel these days. And while it doesn't really seem to matter a whole lot if you're wearing a green badge or a blue one, I cannot help but get the feeling that a change in this system would be a good place to start if there really is an intent on changing the culture. within the company. Long term, this needs to happen for the future of Intel. The problem is that's going to cost money in the short term, and we already know that they will not be willing to pay that price. I'll catch you later, guys.